welcome to this afternoon's session. My name is Dick Hill. I'm a Vice President at ARC Advisory Group, and I've been interested in automation pretty much all my career. And as you have no doubt heard in the sessions so far, automation still has a lot to do with it. When you look at that word in a broad sense, it has a lot to do with everything we're talking about here. Specifically, what I want to focus on is a major automation project. How do you go about executing that? What are some of the things that help you make it successful? Of course, there's a lot to be concerned about if you don't make it successful. So what I'd like to start with, and by the way, we have some great speakers today, so I hope you can suffer through me until we get to the great speakers. But in any event, I want to start with a little bit about what are some of the justifications and reasons. One of the things you want to do is you want to make value. You don't just do these projects just for fun. In fact, some companies, I won't name who they are, have a great deal of fairly old control systems that they've had a hard time getting ready to remove. And of course, the longer you put it off, the more difficult it is. But you've got to come up with reasons, and there's plenty of reasons out there that are not that technical. They have to do with business. Making sure that your plant can meet competition and meet delivery schedules and do it safely and so forth. Also, to simplify things, this is one of the things that we like to do, is simplify things. And this is a very complicated subject, so I'm oversimplifying, but I've basically put major projects into two categories. One is greenfields, and the other is brownfields. So when you look at a greenfield, you basically have the advantage that there is no automation. Of course, there's also no history in how you ran that plant, so that's another issue. In the case of an existing plant, you have existing automation, existing infrastructure that you have to deal with. Either replace it in total or replace it a little bit at a time. There's all kinds of strategies going there. Oops. I'm learning a new thing. So no matter which side you're on, you still have to do certain things. You have to design the new system. You have to do the engineering based on the design you have. You have to purchase whatever equipment or software that's necessary. Then it has to be installed and started up. Well, if you're doing an existing plant, you still have to do the same things. One major difference, of course, is in a greenfield plant, you don't have any automation practices that have to be copied or modified to. But on an existing plant, you do have to take consideration of what's existing there, transitioning not just the technology but also the people. So many installed systems today in plants have pretty obsolete technologies that weren't designed to work with the modern business requirements. First off, systems that were put in place 20, 40 years ago weren't used to the constant churn of new business objectives that are coming in today. So the need here is to update and move on from this obsolete system and its structure. And one of the reasons, looking at it again from a business point of view, there's many lost opportunities. Not just failures of existing equipment that cause you to think about moving, but there's lost opportunities to move forward. A number of years ago, ARC came up with this model we called the Collaborative Process Automation System. And we didn't necessarily use all the terms that you've heard here, but implied are a lot of the things that you need to deal with. You need to deal with interoperability. We called it collaborative, but that we also meant that it's interoperability, not just with within the technologies that you put together, but also with the people and the processes. So all those things have to come together today. There's also a myriad of opportunities for technologies. When you start to dig deep into this, you have all kinds of technologies that range from automation-specific hardware, intelligent field devices, IoT-enabled devices. How do they fit into your structure? Application servers, intelligent networks, visualization. These are all things that you have to consider from a technical point of view. You also have to think about the application software that's going on those servers or going wherever it needs to run. There's analytics now to empower some of the intelligence that you're putting into your system. Automated procedures. Don't forget the knowledge worker. How do you put the knowledge for them to not only operate this equipment, but also operate the plant? And of course, virtualization, and don't forget sustainability and safety and all those issues. So there's a lot of things technically to think about. And oftentimes, companies will realize it's a bigger job than the number of people they have to do it in. One of the things that's important is to start with a team, and that team ought to start with your management team. Your management team, obviously, the bigger the project, the more your management team has to be on board. They're going to give you the money to do this. So they have to be on board, what it is you're doing, why you're doing it. So it's important to have that team on board. Then there's a development team, the team that's actually going to be working on this. And of course, as I said, the bigger the project or the broader the scope, there's going to be a lot of different disciplines that have to work together with the same overall objective in mind. And it's going to produce project steps along the way. Now, we've built this model which basically says you design and you implement a project, but then over life cycle, you still have to maintain this. And hopefully you're going to be thinking about putting in a system that has a little easier job of maintaining over the years, and more than just maintaining, improving, which is the subject of my next slide. The traditional view of plan, design, engineer, operate, and maintain is thought of as a linear process. But in today's world, it's really not linear anymore, particularly when you look at the front end. The design and build, there's an opportunity to do a lot of parallel activities. You can do things like design and engineer and redo these things as you find better ways to do them along the way, and shorten that cycle. Because obviously the longer the cycle, the more money you're spending until you get to the point where you start making money. On the back end, as I call it, the operate and maintain, it's more than just operate and maintain. There's actually an opportunity to do a continuous improvement, and so innovate and improve is part of this operate and maintain. So you want to constantly be looking for ways you can improve the situation, be more profitable, make more money with the equipment you have, the production equipment. So this all has to be thought of ahead of time. Now there's a class of companies that are oftentimes referred to in an activity like this as main automation contractor, or a MAC. And a MAC could be your automation supplier. It could be an EPC. It could be a systems integrator. And in some cases, some companies have chosen to be the MAC themselves, which means they have to have a lot of people that are dedicated to doing projects. And this has happened. But the main point I'm trying to make here is there's an awful lot of things to consider. And these are just the tip of the iceberg in terms of areas of expertise or areas of consideration. And you may want to consider that when you're doing something, maybe what was done before didn't work very well. So maybe you have to totally re-engineer one of the components that's going into your system. Re-engineer it, rethink it, and you want to do it in such a way that it's ready to plug right into the new application you're putting on board. And I think one of my speakers will have something to say about that a little bit later. So what does a MAC do? Well, if you look at an EPC, there's a lot of things they do in terms of pouring cement and welding pipes together and so forth. But when we talk about a MAC, we're primarily concentrating on the activities that are done in the instrumentation and automation, automated controls area. That's where the MAC can pull all these things together, because if you're doing a major project, chances are you can't buy everything from a single automation supplier. So somebody has to help you put it all together. Also, there's a lot of benefits to using this MAC idea, because you basically have formed a team, and a MAC is the leader of the team in making sure that you have the shortest delivery possible, that you have reduced the complexity as much as you can, and make sure that you have a better integrated system in the end so that you can continue to keep that evergreen. So as I said before, many functions, many factors, many technologies are involved in this. And it's important to concentrate on the ones that are likely to give you problems if you don't concentrate on them. So there's some benefits to using this concept of a MAC. And again, I said some companies who have enough staff may choose to be their own MAC, and that's fine, as long as they realize that they have to pay attention to this day in and day out and be a coordinating factor. If you do it right, you can shorten the amount of time it takes to get your project underway and get your new plant or your existing plant with the new equipment running. Now, what we found in our research is that if you look at the amount of a major project that is spent on automation and automation-related services and whatever, it's roughly 2 to 4%. I've even heard as little as 1%. But what we also found is that if you do it right, that automation is what gives you tremendous benefits down the road. It can be in the neighborhood of 15 to 30% of the actual benefits, the return on your investments, can come from doing the automation properly. So with that, I'd like to start with with our presenters, who are going to talk a little bit more about what their experiences have been and some of the things they've done. Thank you.